Sitting atop the watchtower, the Nerdy Knights are preparing to bring you some great comic book content. I am your host. Some call me Snarky. Some call me your friendly neighborhood podcaster. I am Ben, the Ridiculous Riddick. And joining me, all the way from San Francisco, is a girl who loves science and the color pink, Honey Lemon. I mean, Anna Riddick.
Wiki wiki.
Yeah. I can't believe you're still doing that.
I got my entire crew on wardrobe to do it.
Jeez. You know, it's one of those things, like, I'm afraid to make fun of you by doing the same thing. Because you know when you make fun of a thing that's really dumb, and then you just start doing it because you make fun of it all the time?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid would happen to me. Guys, real quickly, this is a comic book club episode. We do these every other week. On the off weeks, you find us, or find me rather, doing a show all on the news of comic books over the last 2 weeks. Last week, I did a breakdown of every Civil War character as seen in the comic books, not in the movie. And this week we've got our goal here really is to get more people interested in comics and to give those who have started watching or getting into comics through the movies and TV shows a good jumping on point. Because, you know, comics are great. Anna and I love comics. And we want to make sure that you guys love comics. Plus, we also try to give the pre-existing comic book lovers a place to talk about some of the greatest books out there, which are really the books that Anna and I are trying to read the most of. And of course, we want to get people to read books they may otherwise not read. Especially Anna and I mean, you know, we've got books on our list that I don't think either of us would ever read in a million years, except for the fact that, you know, we're reading it for this. So before we get into this week's book, why don't we talk about our current pull list? Anna, what are you reading right now?
I started reading the Deadpool and Spider-Man comics crossover, and I really like it. It's very funny.
I read a couple of those issues when I went and visited you in at your school. Yeah, they're pretty funny. I think putting those two characters together is just hilarious. You put a sarcastic, you know, asshole with a sarcastic smart aleck, and all of a sudden the entire book is just oozing sarcasm and snark. It's great. And then I've been reading so much lately. But no, I just started reading Uncanny X-Men, which is essentially the team of X-Men led by Magneto right now. It's pretty interesting. In the world of Marvel right now, that we're all dealing with the Terrigen Mist getting out, and essentially the Terrigen Mist kills mutants and creates a bunch of new Inhumans. So that's awesome. And no, the book's really good. I'm enjoying it. It's got Psylocke in it and Magneto, and I do love those two characters. And I can't wait to see some more. Especially as it gets into the Avengers standoff stuff that's going on right now.
X-Men's always good.
X-Men is always good, and except for I'm trying to like all new X-Men with young Scott, but I can't do it.
I don't like his character.
Yeah.
There was the one that just released those Extraordinary X-Men, or...
I do. The Extraordinary X-Men is the one where Storm's leading the X-Men.
Yeah, and there is no Scott, or at least as of the issues that I've read.
Yeah.
So...
I'm completely current on Extraordinary X-Men, and there is still no Scott. So we're good. And what makes Extraordinary X-Men even better is the fact that Jean Grey is in it.
And Nightcrawler.
And Nightcrawler. and Nightcrawler, and yeah, it's a good stuff. It's a good stuff. That is for sure. Anna, why don't we go ahead and discuss what our book this week is about? This week, we decided to read Man Extremis by Warren Ellis and illustrated by Addie Granov. Just to give you guys the heads up, there will be spoilers for this book. If if you haven't read it, I highly recommend reading it first and then kind of jumping into this. So, yeah. If you do want to read these books, the best thing for you to do is visit www.knightlynovels.com. That's Knightly with a K, and use our Amazon affiliate link in the blog posts. Each book that you get, we get to actually see a small percentage of, and it keeps the lights on. It lets us buy more comics and read more books and bring you the best content possible. I'm going to jump straight into the book summary. Real quickly, I mean, I'll give you guys a character breakdown. We've got Iron Man as the main character. This is a Tony Stark and Iron Man whose secret identity is still intact. And of course, because of that, he doesn't really run around with his suit, so he has his suit shipped to him wherever he goes, and he calls it his car. There's the main superpowered villain, which is Mahlon. He's one that gets injected with the Extremis formula, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. He's very anti-government, and his family was essentially killed by police. So, as you can imagine, he's a little upset about that. And then the other big character in the book is Maya Hansen. She's the creator of Extremis. She's also an old friend of Tony's, and ends up asking Tony for help. It is actually later revealed in the book that she's part of the reason these terrorists got the Extremis formula. And she wants to use Extremis for good. So let me give you guys the quick walkthrough of the story. The scene opens up with Mahlon in this like basement meat locker like place. He is being injected with the Extremis formula, and it really just appears that he dies. He starts vomiting blood and passes out. Then we move on to Tony Stark. He is pretty much in his garage workshop, passed out, woken up by a phone call. And then, of course, we move to Future Farm, which is where Extremis is being made, and we see Aldrich Killian. He is typing a message on the computer talking about how he regrets letting Extremis get into such terrible hands, and then kills himself. We then see Maya Hansen. She runs in. She has to call Tony Stark because she's freaking out about all of this. Tony goes out there. We do start to see how they met at a bar at a conference.
A genius convention.
A genius convention, indeed. And Maya ends up asking Tony for help. Tony, of course, has his little Iron Man suit sent to him. And while Maya and Tony are meeting, Mahlon wakes up from his little Extremis-induced whatever, cocoon, and goes out to an FBI building and pretty much murders everybody inside of it. They see, Maya sees this on the news. Tony sees it. He gets into his Iron Man costume, runs out there, essentially gets his ass handed to him by Mahlon. It is a hands down just let's beat the shit out of Tony Stark fest. Mahlon ends up leaving Tony there alive because a bunch of helicopters swoop in and try to stop him. Iron Man gets taken. Iron Man in his suit, fully covered, secret identity intact, gets taken back to Future Farm. to try to get some help because, he's in pretty bad shape. He gets there, he talks to Maya, he reveals his secret identity to Maya, and then kind of forces her to inject him with the Extremis thing, which Extremis is it's essentially it's a tech bug that rewrites the brain's repair systems. So essentially it can make you heal really fast and, stuff that is very helpful medically, but in Mahlon's sense, it kind of turns him into a fire-breathing asshole. So Tony, without Maya knowing, actually modifies the Extremis formula before she injects it into him. So Tony, Tony only has to undergo the transformation for about 24 hours. Extremis kind of reinvigorates everything in him. His hearing is better, his reflexes are better, everything is better. But on top of that, the way that Tony modified it was in a way that allowed him to have essentially his suit built into his skin. So all he has to do is think about his suit, and it pours out of his pores, and then he can control his suit through that. Which, I mean, come on, that's pretty freaking cool. And then he even shows off by calling Maya on her phone through his head, and actually talking to her on the phone without him moving his mouth. It's quite neat. So Iron Man then figures out exactly where Mahlon is going to be going. Goes out there. He finds out that Mahlon's after the president in DC. He goes out there and kicks the shit out of Mahlon. He's trying his hardest not to kill him, essentially. But Mahlon eventually gives him no choice, and Tony blows up his head. And then Tony then, of course, realizes that, mind blown, right? Mind blown.
But really.
Yeah. So what ends up happening after that is Tony realizes that Aldrich Killian could not have gotten the Extremis out to another group without help. So that's where he discovers that Maya was actually in on this. Maya justifies what she did by comparing Extremis to the atomic bomb. She says that, I think the quote is, it had to be used once out of anger.
Yeah.
Before it could be used for good. So that's kind of the story. Anna, do you feel like I missed anything on that?
Nope.
There
are a couple flashbacks to the origin story of Iron Man.
Oh yeah, actually, when he injects the Extremis into him, and kind of goes into the little Extremis-induced coma, you kind of get the flashback of Iron Man's origin, which is really awesome. And then, of course, for those of you who got into comics by reading or by watching the movies, this is very similar to Iron Man 3. The Extremis is still the same Extremis. The big difference is that Iron Man never injects it into himself. And that obviously there are a few differences, like Aldrich Killian is the one that's alive and Maya ends up being the one that dies in the movie. But that's neither here nor there. Anna?
Yeah.
Let's get into our roundtable breakdown. What did you think of the story?
I liked it. I don't like Iron Man as a character usually, and so I definitely enjoyed this one a lot more than the jackass, playboy, Avenger thing. And I thought it was a really good story to kind of get into Iron Man with that embedded origin story in there, and the suit was awesome.
Yeah, the suit was awesome. I agree. I thought I also am not a huge Iron Man fan. I've tried many times to actually sit down and read Iron Man books, but they typically do not hold my attention. I've read a few really good ones that I like, but overall, Iron Man is not my favorite. I do like, you see a lot with Tony and how he wants to be remembered. He very much in this book goes on and on about not wanting to be remembered as a weapons dealer. He goes on and on about wanting to remain the CEO of Stark so that Stark does not become a weapon, only a weapons dealer. There's just so much really good character points that are hit home, and I thought the relationship between Maya and Tony was shown really well, even in this very short amount of time that you got to see them interact, and it was definitely interesting.
I thought it was kind of, I don't know if I found it unnecessary, because I enjoyed the little snippets where they kind of went out and veered to a different location for no reason, but it didn't really enhance anything. Like when they went into the woods and met with one of the speakers.
Sal Kennedy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I enjoyed that.
I think the big thing that did was it helped establish the character of Maya more. It explained what she's been doing, explained, kind of even went into the whole Iron Man's an alcoholic thing. I think I do agree. I don't think it was fully necessary, but I do think for new people reading Iron Man, it is good to remember, or good to remind them, that Iron Man's an alcoholic and he very much has a problem, and it's good that he is, going into this, right? And the villain, obviously Mahlon. I did feel legitimately sorry for Mahlon, especially during that flashback where you kind of see why he's so angry.
Beheading a lady.
Yeah.
A teenage girl was not necessarily.
No. But I think it was a good story in showing how angry people can get with mistakes that the government can make. Granted, this was a huge thing, and it wasn't necessarily a big mistake per se, but you can definitely rationalize why he's doing what he's doing, and I think that's kind of what makes some of the best villains. Wouldn't you agree, Anna?
Makes them the scariest, because you're kind of like, if I can relate to them, what does that say about you?
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm not saying I would go out and murder an entire room of FBI agents, but...
I'm not saying you, but I am agreeing that they make the scariest villains, or the best villains.
Right. So Anna, let's talk about art.
It looked like a video game.
It looked very odd, but
it wasn't bad. It just looked like a video game.
I agree. I think it suits Iron Man. Get it? Suits. No, I think it suits Iron Man really well, because he's he is a techie superhero. So going at his art in that kind of style, it fit for me. Like I didn't hate the art, I didn't love the art, but it was the art that book, I think, needed. And the cool thing about both the art and the Adi Granov, the guy who did the art for it, he did the art having never read any other Iron Man other than like the origin story of Iron Man, and going off of Warren Ellis's script. So when you throw that into the mix, I think it was really awesome. There were some really graphic scenes in this book also, which like very bloody beheading, gunshots through heads. Not what you expect of whatchamacallit, of a Marvel comic book.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you have any other comments on the art? Was there anything in particular that?
I mean, again, I don't really have much to say about it. It looked the way it did. I wasn't upset about how it looked. There were a couple of things that I found more captivating with how it was illustrated than others, like during fight scenes and how they would illustrate the speed in which each Iron Man and Malik were going at, and the X-ray hand. That was kind of cool.
Yeah, things like that were absolutely pretty nifty. This also takes place. This takes place right. It takes place between House of M and Civil War, because this is, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Extremis is during the Avengers Disassembled storyline, which is part of what leads to Civil War. But I can't remember 100%. That's me being a bad host right there. Do you think there's anything about the art that could have been better, Anna? Is there something you would have rather seen in the art?
No, like you said, it very much fit Iron Man. I mean, was it my favorite artwork? No, but it very much suited the story.
Okay.
That's all you can really ask of it to do.
Well then, Anna, why don't we talk about favorite panels? What was your favorite panel?
Either when the suit was coming out of his pores, because I thought that would have been awesome to see in reality. Or when, and either in comparison of the flashback when he's in the like cocoon, kind of, where he has the first model of Iron Man on and he's standing there in that close-up shot, and then comparison to the after the beheading in the new Iron Man suit. I thought that was just a good comparison picture, so I kind of like those two panels.
Yeah, the two panels that go together that I honestly didn't even think of going together. I have to say, I agree with you. One of my favorite scenes in general was Tony playing with Extremis after he'd injected it. So not even just the suit coming out of his pores, but the phone call and him making the rest of the suit come to him, and all of that was just really, really cool.
And I think that could have totally been played out in a movie realization if they wanted.
I know, it made me so upset because that's where I thought the end of Extremis was going to go. But it didn't, and that makes me very sad.
It's stupid because they invest so much money anyway in CGI that they didn't want to do the coolest part of the comic, in my opinion.
I agree, Anna. Otherwise, my favorite scene was absolutely the flashback with showing kind of how Tony got his start. Should we let's talk about new readers. Is this a good standalone Iron Man story?
Yes, and it's a good starter because
Absolutely.
of the backstory, and you're building the character up from the beginning to establish him.
Absolutely.
It's not trying to play off of anything else.
Yeah, and the book does a really good job of explaining every single aspect of it. And I think that's really important. It's like it explains the demon in a bottle story stuff that happens. It explains his origin. It explains so much about Tony Stark and Iron Man that it is a great standalone Iron Man story, and absolutely 100% great. If you are a new comic book reader or a new Iron Man reader, I think this is a good a good book to look at to see if Iron Man is a story that you would actually like. Did this book at all make you more interested in trying to read more Iron Man?
Yes.
Kind of.
It did. I'm still kind of like, I just don't like the character. I like how it's portrayed in movies. I just don't like the character.
Yeah. It's not a fun character to read. I do agree. I am more willing to look into some Iron Man story arcs, but I don't think I'm ever going to really get into just reading Iron Man all the time. The only reason I'm reading Iron Man right now is because we're going into
Mary Jane.
Well, we're going into Mary Jane. We're going into Civil War 2. And Iron Man is going to be a huge part in Civil War 2, and I do feel like I need to read through his stuff. Even though in the first Civil War, Iron Man's books were my least favorite.
He was my least favorite character in the Civil War.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, understandably so. So let's give this our rating. For those of you guys new to the show, our ratings we have a 3-tier rating system. The highest possible praise that we could give a book is buy it now. This book was so good that you should just go out and get it. Whether you're a fan of the character or not, it's a good book. Our mid-tier rating is we call it Wait for Free Comic Book Day, which was this past Sunday for those of you watching this on Wednesday, or Saturday rather. And for that, we're saying it's not a bad book, but we might recommend just waiting until you see it on sale or for free even. And then, of course, our lower rating is I wouldn't give this to my sibling. Anna and I, of course, are siblings. We are giving each other these books all the time, but we do have a third sibling. And this is what we're going to say. We are going to never let Sarah, our younger sister, touch this book ever. And essentially, this rating means avoid the book at all costs. So, Anna, of those three, what do you rate Iron Man Extremis?
I would say to somebody else to buy it now. I have a copy. It's not a copy where I would be like, yes, let me get a paperback. But I would say buy it now.
Buy it now. Yeah, I think it's a great book. My biggest stipulation with me personally recommending the buy it now is it's a buy it now whether you like the character or not. For me, I would say if you're not a big Iron Man fan, it's okay if you miss it. So I might rate it get it on Free Comic Book Day. But that's not to say that it's a bad book. It's a great book. But if you're not into Iron Man in any way, shape, or form, it might not be the book for you. All right. I think that ends kind of our Iron Man Extremis talk. Next week, our next book, which we'll be reading in 2 weeks, so make sure to go out and get the book. We're going to be reading Deadpool's Art of War. This is a book written by Peter David and illustrated by Scott Koblish. You can support this show by going to knightlynovels.com and purchasing the book through our Amazon affiliate link in the blog. Every time you guys use that Amazon affiliate link, Amazon smiles upon us and allows us to make this show better for you. Guys, this has been another issue of the Nightly Novels Comic Book Club. We are here every 2 weeks on New Comic Book Day, which is Wednesday for those of you new to comic books. Join me next week as I discuss the biggest news in comics, and join Anna and I in 2 weeks for Deadpool's Art of War. This is a Nerdy Knights Network show. For more content, visit www.nkrn.org or our YouTube channel at nkrn.org/YouTube. Our different shows consist of Nerdy Knights Radio, our Nerdy Talk Show, which is live every Monday on Twitch at nkrn.org/Twitch. And then the podcast version goes live the following Monday. Let's Play Podcast is Mike DeMarco's Let's Play show. He has a new episode air every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And right now, there's actually a lot of Let's Play content up. Mike took Sam through Star Fox 2. That's up on the site. Mike and I played Lego Avengers and talked about Civil War. Because, that's a movie that we've been really excited about. And the ongoing thing is that I'm playing my first playthrough of Final Fantasy VII with him. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Don't ever let anyone get you blah, blah, blah. You know what?
Get your words mixed up.
Yeah.
Don't let anyone get your words mixed up.
You know what? Mike, you're watching this. Will you just cut out that whole part? I have a feeling he's not going to do it, and he's probably gonna do something really mean, like, I don't know, put a big clown nose on my face, or do something like, I don't know, maybe he's gonna make my head explode on the video. Anyways, you can find us also on Twitter. I am at BRidiculous. That's BRIDDICKULOUS. You can follow Anna at Anna_Riddick, and everything Nerdy Nights related at Nerdy_Nights. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Don't ever let anyone tell you to get your nose out of a book. And don't let them tell you getting into comic books is too hard. Go out there and read. And until next week, Excelsior.